everybody, it's Debbie here and welcome back to my crafty den. I have created this beautiful set of plant pots for my indoor garden. So I'm trying to create a space for some indoor plants that will really complement my living area in my home. And this is one of the projects. So if you would like to see how I turn cheap Dollarama terracotta pots, I mean, this was the most expensive one and it was $2.50. And these ones were $2, I believe. This one was $2.50. And these ones were $2 a piece. No, these ones were $1.50 a piece, and these were two for $1.50, and I only used one of them. But so that's $3, $5, under $7 if you add all the material in here to do these beautiful flower pots. They're very nature oriented and actually gorgeous, and they bring the outside right in. So you could use these in your home, you could use them in a covered porch. Yeah, they're gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So if you would like to see how I do this, stay tuned and watch the rest of the video. I hope you enjoy it. So for this project, you're going to need a few things. So for the first step, you have to choose which napkin you're going to use to Mod Podge on the outside. Now this could be, you could put a floral on here. You could put a geometric print on here if you wanted to. You could put, let me see. You could put, what I'm using is this napkin that just looks like birch trees. It looks like this. So whatever you put on the outside is your choice, but you want to make sure that your pot is painted in the main color of your napkin. And the reason for that is because if I put this napkin, if I Mod Podge this to the outside of this pot, it's going to turn my birch trees this terracotta color, because this is going to become slightly translucent, or slightly more translucent than what it is. So I chose the closest color that I have in chalk paint without making some more is this called Grain Sack, and it's a slightly grayish white. Or it's a pale, pale gray is what it is. And I think that these birch trees, it's just the tree trunks, there's nothing else. But I think it'll look good on top of this paint color. So I've shaken this up really, really good. You can see the bubbles that have come into the top here. I'm going to use that. And I'm going to paint this pot. Now, I'm just using a regular paintbrush today because this is, I want to do this in a way that anybody can do it. If you don't have chalk paint, just, you know, use your favorite DIY chalk paint recipe and go ahead and paint it with that. It'll work just as well as this. So I'm not going to paint the whole inside of this clay pot. I'm only going to go down, you know, I don't even have to go down as far as I'm going. But when this is done, I don't want it to look like a clay, well, I mean, it's going to look like a clay pot because it's a clay pot. I'm not changing the shape of it, but it'll be a flower, just a flower pot that's this color, and this is going to go nicely with the outside. So, and you're going to use quite a bit of chalk paint for this. So if you're mixing up your own, make sure you mix up a good cup, because this terracotta is going to soak this stuff in like crazy. Just crazy. So you don't have to go for perfect. I want the inside to be as covered as possible because this is what you're going to see around the rim. Look at that, that's starting to dry already. That's how fast it soaks it in. So I'm just checking around my pot to make sure that that's covered well. And I'm going to paint the outside. So let's start with this rim. I'm just going to go around the rim first. Just like that. Now I forgot to tell you what size pots I used. Of course it's all personal preference for you and what you can find and what you've got on hand. But my bottom pot does not have a hole in it. But the pots that you use to go up have to have a hole in the bottom because they need to be supported, and you use the hole in the center to support. So I'll just take my ruler here and measure and show you how big these are. So this is a 7-inch pot. So I'm using a 7-inch one. Let's get them unstuck. I'm using 2 4 1/4 pots, and I'm using this little one that's just about 3 3/4 because I wanted a smaller one at the top. Now if I could get, these came in packages of 2, so I'm using 2 this size, but you don't have to. If you had more packages or if you wanted to make more than one of these, you could get your bottom pot, which is your largest, and you could only put 2 on top. Use a medium-sized one and a small one and make 2 sets, or make a set. Yeah, it's up to you. It's all personal choice. So I'm going to continue painting this until I've got a coat. Now this doesn't have to be perfect. It's basically just to hide the color and to seal the terracotta. Because if I didn't seal this, the other thing that would happen would be that the water, when you water your plants, the water would come through and ruin your napkin, I think. So I'll be back when I'm done painting these and show you what the next step is. Before I finish too, another little tip is, if this is hard to paint or hard to hold, this one's a little bit heavy, and yeah, it's going to make my hands sort of hold it. I'm going to tip it upside down over this mason jar, just like that, so I don't have to hold it. So the next part of this project is decoupaging on the outside of these. Now they're like, I just love them painted. Just to have the terracotta painted in this nice neutral color is really pretty. But I'm going to decoupage my napkin on the outside of it. So when I open up these napkins, I'll show you the whole thing. But when I open this up, there's actually a line down the middle. It's a print down this side and a print down this side. So to get a nice continuous flow, I can cut this right down the center line, and I have 2 pieces that I can use. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cut this down the middle. And I've already measured to make sure that it would fit. But this napkin, I don't know if you can see that if it's on camera. Yeah, this is the biggest one, and I measured, and this fits just from the top to the bottom. So it's going to work for all of these. And so I wouldn't use one bigger than what half my napkin would fit, unless you have a napkin that is a full print right through that you want to use. So I am going to separate this napkin. Try to separate this napkin. Sometimes they're really hard. Let's see if I can get it going here in the middle. The corners sometimes just aren't the best place. So that's one layer off, but there's still another layer because that's not clear enough. I can tell there's another layer on here. Okay. Let us see what we can do here. Actually, to tell you the truth, the hardest part of this project is separating the napkin. There, I knew there was another layer on there. So I'm going to set these aside because I can use them to wipe my fingers and still use them for stuff. I am going to, this is right side up. And the only reason that I can tell is because when you look at these birch trees, this is a repeating print. This birch tree and this birch tree are identical, but they have the bit of a broken branch that is kind of protruding and it's growing up. And branches on trees grow up. They do not grow down, at least the ones around here. So you can see that these little cut off branches, these old healed wounds on the trees are going up. So I am going to Mod Podge my napkin like that. And what I'm going to do, this goes all the way around, I believe, this napkin. It does. So my smallest one is going to be the easiest one to do. And I'm going to try to position it where I get the best parts of these trees, maybe up about there. So I'm going to cut a little bit off the top of this because I'll use from about here down. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to give myself a decently straight edge. It doesn't have to be perfect, but decently straight would be good. And then I don't have as much to have to play around with. So I'm going to start here. And I've watered down my Mod Podge. I'm going to set it here. I'm going to move these back a bit. And move my scissors back. I don't need glue on everything. And because I've watered my Mod Podge down, it'll go right through this napkin. So it's nice and runny. So I've got it on my big fat. There. So that is stuck down to the rim already. So I'm going to go around. Oops, it's very, very delicate. That's starting to tear there already. So I'm going to go around. You have to be careful that you don't rip it. Like that's really wet. So I don't need as much Mod Podge on here, I don't think. Very gently, go very gently around. Remember that it tapers down, so you're going to have wrinkles, but I don't think that that's going to matter very much because the lines are going in this pattern are going up and down anyway. There. And I've gone that way. And now I'm going to go, sorry, I'm talking with the end of the paintbrush in my mouth. Sometimes you need more than 2 hands. Oh my. Yeah, sometimes you just need more than 2 hands. Yeah, how silly is that? Remember, be very gentle. I hardly am touching this paintbrush to the napkin. Just hardly touching it. It's like feather light. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut, because this is going to overhang a little bit. I'm going to cut a little bit off of this one, just on an angle like that. So that when it overlaps a little bit, this isn't quite as strange looking at the seam. So I'm going to go to the other side, the opposite side of the seam, and I'm going to start just tapping the napkin in, just tap the napkin into that little ridge. I don't want to rip it, remember? So and it's wet now, so I have to be very careful. Got to go under here and tap that in. And I'm going to actually go down here a little bit. I'll pull that over a little bit. There. So it's all about, that's starting to rip. So I have, and I don't think you can see it on the screen, a teeny tiny hole in my napkin. And that's where having a coordinating background makes the world of difference. Absolutely the world of difference. Because if I didn't have a coordinating background right there, that hole would just stick out like a sore thumb. So over here has to be down. Tap it. Get it in there. To me, this is the hardest part, getting it under this ridge. There. There. Now, because I've got it under the ridge, I'm going to start at the other side, and I am going to take this and I'm going to brush straight down. It's going to wrinkle, but that's okay, because it's not as big around at the bottom as it is at the top. I'm going to turn it a little bit, and I am going to take my brush and I'm going to put this down to the bottom. And I'm going to do that here. And I'm going to leave a space each time I go around, because this is going to help this lay down so that it has kind of even wrinkles all over instead of, instead of them all being in one spot. That's that seam. So I've got that seam laid down like that. There's a big space there, so I'm going to go down right down the middle of that. Remember, don't push hard, don't drag hard. Now I want this little bit of a knot in the tree to show, so I'm going to fold. I'm just going to use the brush. So I'm going to go down here, and then I'm going to kind of try to fold that way so that that knot shows. So you can kind of work this a little bit. So that you can get the wrinkles to give you the best part of this that you can get. If that makes any sense. The best part of your print. If this was a really busy print, like a whole bunch of clusters of flowers or something like that, it might not be as hard. I mean, it's not hard anyway. It's just a little bit tedious working this down. And you have to be careful, because once it's wet, it's sticky. You don't want to stick your brush to the paper and then rip a chunk of your paper off. You could do this with tissue paper instead of a napkin. If you had tissue paper that had a really pretty print, you can Mod Podge strips of paper onto stuff so that it's a little bit easier, and you can Mod Podge it on like a collage if you wanted to. Or you could paint your background and then just use cutouts of the napkins for the parts that you wanted, like I did with my birdhouses. I'll link that video up in the iCards in the corner. I'm trying to think which corner. It would probably be in the top right-hand corner of your screen. And I'll put my iCards up there. And yeah. So I just have the top and bottom edges. So that's Mod Podged all the way around. And I'm going to just use my brush to make sure that my edges are down really good all the way to the bottom. Like that. This extra paper will stick out. And because it's really wet now, if I press a little bit here, I can actually tear this paper off now. So all this extra paper can come off. There. Be really careful that you pull away from the pot, because if you pull this way, if you pull towards yourself, you'd rip it, and you might rip it right up the front. So I am just taking this and sealing these little edges down so that they're sealed really good and they're not going to come up. And at the top, I am just, it's wet, but at the top, I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to roll it around the edge a little wee bit. So I'm just trying to finish this top edge up a little bit. See how my bristles are kind of going down both sides? I'm kind of rolling from the front and over to the inside. So you can kind of see what I'm doing. It's hard to explain, but yeah, I'm just trying to roll this around to the inside and put lots of the glue on here because I want that sealed. All these edges need to be sealed really good. I do not want this to tear off. There, kinda. So I'm gonna put this, let's catch some of those drips. I'm gonna put this back over my glass and let it dry and work on the other ones. And there, I'm going to put that right over there. And I'm just going to hold it up and make sure that I didn't loosen anything with my fingers. Oh, and I did right there. There, so fix that. And let that dry really, really good. And then when that is dry, I'm going to see if I can get that little extra piece of paper off there. There. When that is completely dry, I'll give it another coat of the Mod Podge. Let's see if I can show you this. But look at how, see, I haven't lost the integrity of the pattern, because I don't have all my wrinkles in one spot. So that is really, really pretty, a birch bark pot. And it was just done with a napkin. So I've got 3 more to do, and let them dry, and then I'll be back and show you what the next step is. So these have dried overnight and been given, well, they dried for a couple of hours. I put another coat of Mod Podge on top, and even though it is the matte finish, there's still a bit of a glaze to it. So it gives it this nice, natural, soft look. Now, when you look at these are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Nobody would have thought that I started with that terracotta pot. Yeah, look at how nice the birch bark lines in them are. And these little pots are amazing. And another reason why picking a nice background color for your napkin is so important. I went through, as gentle as I was being with my paintbrush, when the Mod Podge starts to get a little bit tacky, if you're not quite done yet, it's easy to tear the napkin. And it's really hard for me to go through. Now there's a spot where I tore the napkin, but see how close that is? From a distance, you can't hardly tell. And when you're looking at this, so I tore the napkin there. I wasn't going to go over it. The background color is just about perfect. And there's a spot there where I didn't tear the napkin, but there's a clear spot in the napkin. And you can see through, and it looks almost like this. So they turned out really good. In my opinion, I think they turned out really good. Now here's the big one. Now the big one was a little bit harder to do. The full width of the napkin opened up only went halfway around. So this is the whole napkin, like one side and the other side. But when you look at the big print on this one, this is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to carry on with this, but not right now. For right now, this is just a decoupage project. You could use these and put little potted plants in them. Excuse me. Just the way that they are. You could have a set of these so that they are, you know, like a trio if you wanted to. You could just paint them and then decorate them. There's so many things that you could do with these. If you wanted to, you could just paint these and then just decoupage on little bits of the napkin and make a set by cutting out, by fussy cutting your napkin and putting pieces on. You don't have to go with this rustic. I love this. I just love this. We live, I'll show you right now. I'm just going to tip this down a little bit, my camera. Yeah, it's snowing outside again. But this is my view out my living room window. I have some water boiling on my stove and it's steaming up the inside. It's been so dry in here. I'm just trying to put some moisture in the air. But this is where I keep my plants, is in front of this window. And what it does is it kind of just draws the outside right in. Now that's a great big misshapen birch tree out there, and it's one of my favorite views when I look out the window. And I think these are absolutely amazing. Just amazing. And when I get the transformation done on I'm going to completely change everything around in the front part of my house. So when I get this all done, these are going to look fabulous. Now these could go as a set. You could plant them up as a set and just put them on a table like this. There's a lot of things that you could do with these. But I have an idea of how I'm going to use mine. So that'll be part 2 of this video. And it'll probably come up. I have to go shopping still for some stuff. And it'll probably come up in the next part of this video. And it's going to involve some plants. And I'm going to plant these up and I'm going to show you. And it's going to involve this piece of bamboo stick that I've got. Now I hauled, if you can remember, I hauled some bamboo plant stakes, 4-foot plant stakes from Dollarama. And this is all I needed for this project, is this little piece about 24 inches long. But it's perfect. Now I have a bunch of plant stakes that I really need. So I'm going to zoom in on these and let you see how pretty they look. And I'll leave you with that. If you enjoyed the first part of this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment, share, and by all means subscribe so that you don't miss the second part of this to see what I do with these pots now that I've got them finished covering them. So bye-bye for now, everybody, and I will definitely see you in the next video.